Hey guys, got another fun and good build to show, and this time it's a damage over time build that actually feels like damage over time build. Now to quickly describe this build and what it has, it's using twisters with the Arrow Nova. It's able to move pretty quickly while using twisters. It does have infinite poison stack scaling, but against the bosses you're probably gonna have like up to 30 to 40 poison stacks. And the way I achieve that is using Unique Spear, which has very bad base damage, but the way I get flat damage is using Hand of Wisdom and Action stacking Intelligence, and then using Original Sin to convert elemental damage into Chaos. Because the spear says deal no elemental damage, but you still can have elemental damage, which means you can convert it into the chaos damage. That's how I'm getting flat damage. Also, this Ritualist using Ingenuity belt and pretty good rings to raise my intelligence and to get flat damage. Now this build is sort of a budget like most of my builds. The divine prices are kind of nuts, almost 400 exalts right now. So this is I don't know, like 8 exalts, but every single equipment that I have can be either corrupted with extra socket or improved quite a lot, and if you want more damage or more tankiness, you can definitely get a lot more out of this build. Like I said, this is sort of like a budget build. Defensively, this is over 20,000 evasion with almost 80% chance to deflect, but it has no other real mitigation. Being able to move while using twister is just so pleasant and adds extra safety. Now the build has a lot of things that I need to explain, so this is probably gonna be a bit longer video. But the build works really well for clear speed and for single target. But for single target, you really, and I did test a couple other skills. For single target, you really need smaller boss arenas. Something that would allow for twisters to return and hit the boss again. Now you cannot really bounce them off Frost Wall or anything else like that, because it does have 100% pierce, unless you would disable pierce. So there are like multiple different ways you could do this as well. And I only experimented with skills. I didn't really experiment with different ways I could build this because I just really liked this playstyle. Now Ritualist because extra ring, and also Blood Bowl. I actually didn't expect Blood Bowl to be such a significant difference in the build performance. But for the Blood Bowl you kind of also want increased presence area. So I'm also getting a bit of presence area, which also does help the Withering Presence Spirit aura. And the Blood Bowl does apply corrupted blood on the other enemies when one enemy dies. So one enemy dies and it applies the corrupted blood based on that enemy HP. So that corrupted blood is actually pretty strong. It does up to 20% of the enemy that died as damage to surrounding enemies. And that combined with the poison proliferation, which is only one poison proliferated, but the twisters just go through all the enemies and tag them and return. And when poison proliferates, it seems, now this is, and I'm not 100% sure, but normally by default, those who don't know, you can only have one maximum poison stack, only one in PoE 2. But with this spear, you can apply any amount of poisons. However, this weapon states that any number of poisons from this weapon can affect a target at the same time. When the poison proliferates, it's no longer a weapon hit. However, I think it still tracks where the poison came from, and it came from the hit with the weapon. So even when it proliferates, it maintains that information and bypasses the typical one poison limit. Each the enemy dying proliferates their poison to the next enemy, and the enemy that is the toughest will stack multiple poisons on them. That's just a theory. I tried to see it in practice, and it was difficult to kind of judge it, but I did see more than one poison, so which would make me believe that that's how it works, as I described. I also was not sure how to navigate the passive skill tree better, because just stacking intelligence gives you flat damage and mostly just the maximum damage. So I do have lucky damage, but in path of building the lucky damage is not working for damage over time. But I think it does work in game, at least in Path of Exile 2. So I'm not entirely sure about my damage as well. And on the passive skill tree I kind of traveled all the way down to get the percent attribute node to pick up some reduced movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. That one was very important. Stacking intelligence alone is not going to be enough, like damage wise. You also need increased damage and then the poison magnitude. And I also did get long poison duration with escalating toxins, which gives up to 100% increased poison duration. Then there is another node to get another 40% poison duration. Essentially, I do have quite a long poison duration. I think it's like the poison duration is actually 5.6 seconds at maximum duration. So when fighting a boss, the first 10 poison stacks gonna have shorter duration and going to expire faster. But after that, if you continuously keep stacking them without losing time, without losing poison stacks, you're gonna start ramping up much more than the first 10 stacks. So sometimes, especially if you need to move a lot and even dodge roll and stop attacking, it feels a bit weak. But I tried using different skills like Spear Field, Rapid Assault. I tried using one of the lightning skills. Nothing else really felt good enough. With the Spear Field, you can stack over 100 poison stacks, but those poison stacks gonna be about 4 times weaker than a single Twister poison. Simply because Spear Field has deal 80% less damage, essentially if it was triggered within half a second. Which is what happens when you just directly target the boss and it doesn't have time to move towards the spear. Now the Spear Field would easily outdamage Twisters if the target was always moving on the other spears. You can also use a support on the Spear Field that prevents it from detonating. You may want to invest into reduced skill effect duration, because then it would detonate after 3 seconds, and 3 seconds the boss can be on the other side of the screen and not take any damage. After testing, I decided that Twisters just feels the best because it allows you to move, which adds extra safety, reposition yourself from enemy hits, and most of the time you don't even need to dodge roll out of enemy attacks. You can just move away. I did invest quite a bit, not that much, into reduced movement speed penalty. I got on the body armor, and then on the tree I think I have around 70% reduced movement speed penalty. I did get also quite a lot of deflection chance on pretty much anything I could. So the buckler, the body armor, the helmet and the boots have the chance to deflect. For the amulet, I actually thought about getting plus projectile skills, but plus skill levels don't change my damage all that much. Most of the damage I'm getting from flare damage. I don't know, I tried messing around with it, and plus 3 projectiles would be probably better, but it's also a lot more expensive. So instead I tried to craft an amulet with attributes and percent increased intelligence. It could be a lot better, but also gotta remember that Hand of Wisdom and Action has breakpoints every 20 intelligence and dexterity. So if it's somewhere in between 20 jumps, 20 increments, it won't add anything. It has to be every 20 intelligence. So sometimes pushing intelligence a bit higher won't make a difference, but other times just getting that 1 extra intelligence could make a small difference. So I do have 504. Dexterity is also attack speed, which helps stack more poison. And as I said, most of my gear can be improved by either getting an extra socket. For example, the spear could be a free socket, which I believe was like 5 divines. I did not want to pay because the runes, they are level 50 runes that add flare damage. They add around 30 flare damage per rune, 30 average. If you combine minimum and maximum divided by 2, 30 average damage. That's not that much, but it could make a difference when you're trying to min-max and optimize as much as possible. The rings could also be triple flare damage, but I also have 2.8k life. Like, my damage felt sufficient, so I went with more survivability and life rather than triple damage. But triple damage rings can also be expensive, but if you can get like really good rings, then Ingenuity belt can be really good as well. Not to mention that Ritualist also boosts the rings by 25%. By the way, you also cannot convert more than 100% of damage. And another part that I probably should have mentioned sooner, gain damage as extra will not work for this at all. Well, it would work for physical or heals, but elemental would not be converted. You cannot convert the damage gain as extra, but you can convert the flare damage that you get. So I believe from Flame Wall you probably would convert that fire damage into heals. I did try using Flame Ball, but it's hard to tell if it's working and how much I'm benefiting from it. Another option for this could be Mind of the Council helmet and stacking mana. If you're stacking intelligence, you're naturally gonna have quite a bit of mana. And also, by the way, from the Ritualist, I took 30% reduced maximum mana because I have so much mana that I wasn't really running out of mana, but for clear speed, I did get 1 jewel with 2% mana on kill, which helps me sustain mana for clearing, like solve all my mana problems for clearing. For a single target, I still have to use the mana flask. But with Mind of the Council, you would want to stack more mana and could get quite a lot more damage out of it. That is just an alternative way of how you could scale this. By the way, Hand of Wisdom and Action, a pro tip if you want a cheaper one, don't look for the corrupted with 1 to 11 or 1 to 12 lightning damage per 20 intelligence. That's going to be very expensive with the 2 sockets. Instead, add runes that give 15% increased magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict, and you're gonna end up with more damage unless you stack, I don't know how much intelligence you would need, like 700 intelligence. Then it may be better to use a corrupted with 1 to 12 lightning damage. I did also try to get dexterity. If you cannot get intelligence, get dexterity, because on the passive skill tree you can refund all the dexterity nodes, because you will still need dexterity for skills. 157 dexterity for level 20 twisters. All the dexterity nodes on the passive skill tree I refunded and changed into intelligence now. Regarding the passive skill tree, the important things that surprised me, this node gives a lot of evasion. So much evasion. I think I lose like half of my evasion if I refund this. So stacking intelligence and taking this is a big deal. Then this one I took for the presence area. Like I said, presence area is pretty important, and for 3 points you are getting 20 intelligence. So that's also pretty big. Immune to poison, poison duration here, recover life on kill. Essentially when I was leveling, I picked up some damage nodes early on. I wasn't playing with, no, actually I was playing with poison, but I took some like generic damage nodes like projectile damage somewhere, I forgot where it was. Oh, I think I took those attack nodes early on, but leveling with this spear right from the start, you're not gonna have original sin until level 20. But once you get original sin, it really starts to pick up the damage, and it kind of slows down at some point, but by the level 33 I believe you can equip a Hand of Wisdom and Action and start benefiting from intelligence. That's when you start ramping up the damage. But then by the Act 4 interlude, it kind of started slowing down again. That's when you have to also start stacking increased damage. So I am getting some increased damage here against blinded enemies, and enemies are always blinded if you are using twisters. There is also Daze node, I was told, which you can also take for 3 points. That is quite a lot of damage, but it adds a bit of condition. First you need to apply Daze, but it should be pretty quick. Also these nodes give a lot of damage, and you can jump with the From Nothing jewel, and it is pretty cheap. These two combined is a lot of damage and attributes as well. Then there's projectile speed here, which is also important. A bit more increased damage from these herald nodes. For some reason this did not show in the tooltip when I took this node. Then the spear nodes for attack speed and just damage as well. These are for defense as well, and the lucky damage should work for dots in PoE 2. In PoE 1 it doesn't, but in PoE 2 it's a bit different, so I'm not entirely sure, but it should work. Also some increased damage from these nodes as well. Now for skills, now twisters, normal projectiles, deadly poison, projectile acceleration free. Here's attunement. The here's attunement, you may want to avoid using it early on. For some reason it was actually even removing my damage, lowering my damage early on. Arakalis Lust, this one is very easy to apply with this build because you're always applying, well, more than 5 poisons. Dark Effigy, I'm not sure if it's worth using it. Withering Presence, that's how I apply Wither, but it only stacks every, what is this? Every 1.42 seconds, by the last 11 seconds. So essentially you can keep 7 Wither stacks applied at all times, because, and that's another reason why I wanted to get Presence area. Even from one of the rewards I took presence area. Don't forget to check these rewards, like if it's nothing then it doesn't matter which one. At this point I probably would not take dexterity, but getting enough resistances shouldn't be too difficult either. This one from the interlude 2. The Herald of Plague only proliferates one strongest poison. It doesn't have AoE tag, so you can't link it to AoE. I don't know what else to link it with. Cull the Weak, just in case I need to cull enemies quickly. Wind Dance, obviously for defenses. Disengage, I was messing around as well with getting charges and different skills, but you probably don't need Disengage. Sometimes, although a beast blocks your path, you cannot get to them, the twisters cannot get to them, and you cannot roll through, so sometimes you need a jump ability to go over it. So Disengage sometimes allows you to do that. Now the Toxic Domain is a new thing. I'm still not sure if it's helping or not. I don't really find time to use it. It creates a pretty small area, I would say, and then it's mostly for clearing, it feels like. For single target, it doesn't seem to help all that much. It does give you a region if you need, and a spare for a single target pretty much. You may use temporal chain. It would be less DPS, it would allow you to ramp up poison more, but it would also slow down enemies, so it could work as a defense a bit. You could probably find success instead of traveling all the way down here. You could probably go towards the witch area and pick up the chaos nodes, wither magnitude, maybe curse effect, something like that. By the way, you can get percent intelligence on rare jewels. There we go. You can get on rare jewels as a desecrate modifier, so you may also consider doing that as well. And yeah, that pretty much covers this build. I still haven't really fully decided on my next build, so if you got some build ideas, let me know in the comments below. I was thinking Abyssal Lich, something with spirit stacking and I don't know, minion stacking for AoE, maybe something like that. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.